Hello and welcome to Bucky's Beginner Guides for Asker. I'm this turnip, and today we're going over the farm. The farm is a vital part of your village infrastructure and something that I always, 100% of the time, recommend beelining and getting online as soon as you can due to its ability to support your early game growth, not necessarily through food, but through flax. More on that in a bit though. Located under the Advanced tab of your building menu, the farm comes in two tiers. The farm, I guess, the regular one, and the improved farm. The regular farm becomes available after you've built a gatherer's hut. It can support up to 3 crop fields as well as employ 3 farmers. This is Kyle's 1x1 garden, by the way, and the engagement of today's video is, what do you think Kyle should plant here? I think he's going to try and grow a smoker, but I'm not sure it's going to work. Farmers use rakes for whatever reason, not hoes, so keep that in mind and make sure your workshop is producing them. When it comes to farm placement, you're going to want to aim for somewhere that's relatively open and flat, as not only do farms take up a lot of room, but sudden changes in terrain height can actually block your field placements. But the most important thing to consider when placing a farm is the number of nearby water sources. Farming uses a lot of water, so you're going to want to preserve and build around as many wells as you can. Once the farm is up, it's time to lay down some fields. To do this, open up the farm menu by clicking T and then select Build Farm Crop. You'll then drop out of the farm menu and be able to click and drag an area like you see here in which you place your crop field. This works just like your leveling terrain field and can be rotated with Q or E by default once you've locked in the initial size. When it comes to field size, the maximum number of cells you can have is 16, so for maximum efficiency, your choices for making crop fields are 4x4, 2x8s, or 1x16s. That's not to say you can't have a 1x1 farm, but why would you? And like I mentioned a moment ago, the regular farm can support up to 3 farmers, and I would highly recommend that you fill at least 2 worker slots right away, with 1 farmer working the day shift and the other working the night shift. Why? Well, farming in Asker is a very labor-intensive process. Every tile in a crop field must be tilled, sown, weeded, watered, and then eventually harvested, all of which takes a really long time. That, and it also feels like you're often playing whack-a-mole with the bloody weeds. And if any of these tasks are neglected for too long, say overnight when your one worker is asleep, your weeds will grow or your fields will dry out, which will just add more to your farmer's workload when they clock in the next morning. Plus, if the weed level goes over 20%, it's going to impact the growth rate of your crops, and it's just going to slow everything down. Not a good thing to happen. Once you've built your 3 fields and employed your 2 or 3 farm workers, you're next going to want to set up some crop rotations on each of those 3 fields. Now, this part isn't a super in-depth system, and you don't have to worry about things like soil fertility or crop diseases or anything like that, but you do have to be aware that most crops are tied to certain seasons. For example, berries can only be grown in the spring and summer, while beetroot can only be grown in the winter. Flax and sticks are the outlier here, as they can be grown year-round. Speaking of flax again, actually, this is something I tell everyone. Your first field absolutely should be a year-round flax-only field, so let's go ahead and set that up right now. To set up a field rotation, go ahead and open the farm task menu by hitting Q, then click tasks for whichever field it is you want to edit. Before we go any further, do yourself a favor and rename the field. It will help tremendously in the long run if you ever need to make edits or delete a field at some point in the future. But honestly, between you and me, this is literally the first time I've ever taken the time to name a field, so do as I say, not as I do. Once renamed, head over to the Task tab. The Crop Field Task UI is made up of several elements which may look a bit confusing at first, but it's actually super straightforward, I promise. So here we have seasons, seeds, distribution, expected outcome, and then finally clear previous plants. Seasons is pretty self-explanatory. You're basically just going to cycle through spring, summer, autumn, and winter, and then set your crops and placement up based on those seasons. We are going to start in spring. Seeds is where you tell your farmers what to grow on this field in that currently selected season. So in this example, our season is spring and I'm going to scroll until I reach flax. Fortunately, you do not need to memorize what crops grow in what seasons, because as you cycle through this tab, you'll be told in nice handy red letters whether a particular crop is off season. Off season essentially means whatever is planted or growing in this season will offer no yield when completed. This is a bit of a pain in the arse, to be honest, and is something that I desperately hope gets changed, because it kind of makes no sense that a crop which is 99% grown in the morning suddenly yields no produce at midday because the season just happened to change. I really hope that a grace period is added and that a percent-based yield can be retrieved. Moving down to this section here, the distribution area is laid out the same as you have laid out your field. So mine here is a 4x4 square, but these cells will be displayed in whatever arrangement you set your farm up in, including that silly 1x1 field. But back to seed distribution. Once you have your season and crop selected, you'll need to then come down here and both slowly and methodically click each cell one at a time, after which you can see the crop seed displayed in the cell. Only joking, click and drag people, click and drag. Once you're happy with your seed distribution layout, go ahead and cycle through each season and fill each field with flax, remembering of course that flax can grow in winter. Once done, but before hitting save, you'll notice these two options here at the bottom: expected outcome and clear previous plants. Expected outcome is just that. How much flax and how many seeds are you expected to retrieve when harvesting these 16 cells? From what I can tell, this number is baseline and the actual yield should be boosted with certain villager perks, but we'll get into that at the end of the video because I don't think it's working. Clear previous plants is a handy feature because when a season changes, you may find that your current crop is suddenly out of season. Selecting this option will tell your farmers to remove the current out of season crop and replace it with the new in the season crop. Since flax grows all year round, we do not need to bother with this option in this example. So now with all 4 seasons set to flax, go ahead and hit save and boom, your flax field is set up. Good job you deserve a gold medal. Again, absolutely prioritize making your first field 100% year-round flax so that you can start making clothes before winter hits and kills everyone. For your other fields, you're generally going to want to make what I call a medley arrangement, which is essentially a little bit of everything, at least in the early game for the first few years. There's no point in requesting entire fields of berries or carrots if you don't have the seeds on hand to plant them all. So doing a little bit of everything makes it far more likely that every cell gets utilized. Then, of course, after a couple of years when your seed supply is picking up, go ahead and specialize your fields, but we'll touch on that in the tips and tricks. Just be aware that when making any other farm except for a flax or sticks only, you are going to want to hit that clear previous plants option. That just ensures that when the season does change to one where your current plant no longer grows, your farmers will remove it and plant the new crop because, like I said earlier, you're going to get nothing from the harvest. And that's it for the basic farm. To upgrade your basic farm into the improved farm requires that you first build a carpenter and start refining wood into the posts and planks required. And you'll also need some nails from a metalworker. The improved farm allows you to hire an extra Kyle for more crop tending shenanigans, as well as build a 4th field. To be perfectly honest with you though, I haven't tested whether you actually need a 4th worker when using 4 fields, so let me know in the comments your experience with this. Anecdotally, in my experience, using 2 is fine, but I'm also a muppet, so take that as you will. Another benefit of upgrading your farm to the improved farm is that you now have the ability to set tasks for both sticks and reeds. Reeds are grown using reed seeds, occasionally dropped when gathering reeds, and sticks are grown using pine cones, occasionally dropped when gathering dwarf spruce. Oddly enough, when harvesting farmed sticks, you do not always get pine cones in return like you do on regular crops. This means stick farms are not self-sustaining and you will need a continuing external source of them. Also, can I just take a minute to voice my displeasure that sticks, bloody sticks of all things, can only be set as tasks at the improved farm? Reeds, I can understand. They are a late game resource. Grow them in the improved farm. No one cares, fine. But sticks? Really? I really hope this changes, and I will absolutely delight in any future comments left by any future viewers after sticks are modded or patched to work on the regular farms. As of the recording, they don't, and it's just silly. But if and when they are, share some confetti down in the comments. Now, quick tip of the day before we move on to, perks and tips. But since I'm talking about it, you can actually get around the whole can't automatically grow sticks thing by manually planting them yourself on the farm field directly. But do so carefully, because if you have selected that clear previous plants option, your farmers may remove them. Bloody Kyle, such a bloody pain in the ass. And that's it as far as the farm building is concerned. Now let's move on to villager perks, as well as some of my favorite tips and tricks. Starting with villager perks, keep an eye out for the green thumb perk, because it's literally called green thumb, and if you don't prioritize this perk on your farmers, then your game will uninstall itself. And that's true, because a dev told me, a made up dev that I made up just now. Villagers with the green thumb perk come with an initial boost in their farming skill, as well as an increased farming proficiency. This will help them level up a lot faster. The tooltip also says that they grow crops faster, as well as yielding more, but at the time of recording, I honestly didn't notice either of these. Blossom Tender is basically green thumb, but only in the spring, whereas Harvest Blossom does the same, but in the fall. Far less useful in my opinion, but worth mentioning. If these ever get fixed where they do impact yield though, having a boost to farming yield in the fall would definitely help out as you move into winter. Night Shadow is worth having on at least one of your farmers, because villagers with this perk do not mind working during the night. I outlined this one earlier, but people like spinning coffee wielding Kyle, so I kept this section in. Look at him go! Look at him go. And that's all for the perks that I could think of, but go ahead and share some of your own thoughts and ideas. Now let's go on to some of the tips and tricks I've learned. Starting with the outhouse, which may or may not get its own dedicated guide for the fun of it, the outhouse offers your villagers a quiet place to relieve themselves. I said quiet. And in turn offers your farm a fresh source of hot, steaming fertilizer. Fertilizing crops is literally game-changing, because once a crop hits 100% fertilized, it will immediately jump 33% in growth, which is a big math number and very, very good. Consider building a small warehouse near your farms that accept only rakes, seeds, and water, and then blacklist everyone but the farmers from it. This will help cut down on any long distance back and forth your farmers have to gather those items. You can take this a step further and add both a small crafting component storage as well as a crawler storage to this warehouse. Then in the small storage, set it to only accept spoiled food and that hot steaming fertilizer, and in the crawler storage, only crawler slime. Crawler slime is harvested from the upgraded mine house and is a very potent fertilizer. Build a covered campfire near your farms and ensure that you have a dedicated firekeeper to tend to it during the winter months. This will give your farmers a closer source of heat to seek out when they get a little bit nippy. And finally, though I'm not a min-maxer by any stretch, if you want the biggest bang for your Bucky in terms of food, then prioritize growing berries in the spring and summer, and then carrots in the autumn. Winter remains unchanged as only beetroot grows during the winter. The reason for this is because a full 16 cell field of blueberries will yield 240 blueberries, and the same farm will yield 112 carrots. However, for everything else, you're only going to get 80. You're going to get 80 cabbage, 80 garlic, and 80 onions. Remember, we don't care about winter because only beetroot grows, so you have no choice. So once you have enough seeds to plant the entire field of berries and carrots, why wouldn't you? You're going to get more in that field back than you would if you plant cabbage in that same season. So, I expect this to be changed. I hope it will be changed eventually so that it's either balanced or different vegetables are used in a different ratio as fillers. But for now, yeah, this is the min-maxi part, why not? Just do it. And that's all for this beginner's guide. Let me know some of your own favorite tips and tricks when it comes to farming, and be sure to check out my other guys or come and join me in whatever shenanigans I'm currently up to by clicking on one of the videos you see on the screen now. Thank you so much for watching. If you've learned something or you've enjoyed your time here, then please consider grabbing a sub, dropping a like or leaving a comment, and I'll see you next time. Cheerio.